When people hear the name Johnny Depp, they think of pirates, scissors for hands, or wild, strange characters in fantasy worlds. He's played some of the most iconic roles in movie history. But what if we told you his highest-rated movie, the one critics love the most, isn't one of those big, famous roles? It's actually a small, quiet film that most people overlooked. A movie that didn't shout, but whispered? It's a film called Finding Neverland, released in 2004. It's the story of the man who created Peter Pan, a writer named J.M. Barrie. Depp plays Barrie as a gentle, kind, but lonely man. He meets a widow and her 4 young sons, and together, they form a friendship that inspires one of the most beloved children's stories of all time. On paper, it sounds soft, simple, even forgettable. But what Depp brought to the role, it was special. Deeply emotional. Honest. This film didn't rely on costumes or special effects. There were no swords, no wild makeup, no loud performances. There was just Johnny, raw and real. You could see it in his eyes, in how he looked at the children as if he was remembering something long ago. It didn't feel like he was acting. It felt like he was opening up a part of himself we'd never seen before by the time Depp made Finding Neverland. He had already lived through pain in his childhood, in his career, in private. He often said he never truly felt he belonged. In Hollywood, maybe that's why this role fit him so well. J.M. Barrie escapes the real world by writing about a magical land where kids never grow up. And Depp, always drawn to fantasy and freedom, played this with quiet heartbreak. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was powerful. Critics noticed. Finding Neverland earned a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, the highest Johnny Depp has ever received. Even more than any Pirates of the Caribbean film. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Depp was nominated for Best Actor. And while he didn't win that Oscar, many believed it was one of the best performances of his life. But for Depp, this movie wasn't about awards. It was something deeper. He once said that Finding Neverland felt personal. It reminded him of his own childhood, his struggles, and the desire to escape into imagination when real life felt too heavy. In that sense, the film became more than a job. It was a mirror. A way to reflect the person behind all those strange and unforgettable characters. That's what makes it so special. Out of all the huge blockbuster roles he played, his highest rated performance came from a soft-spoken, deeply human story, one that allowed him to simply be himself. No masks, no circus. Just a man who wanted to protect innocence in a world full of pain. And maybe that's the most powerful thing an actor can do, not to entertain, but to quietly move you. To remind you that behind all the lights and noise, there's a real person living the story too. Finding Neverland wasn't just a film about Peter Pan. It was a story about loss, imagination, and the importance of never letting go of childhood wonder, even when life tells you to grow up. For Johnny Depp, it was more than a movie. It was a moment of truth. And though most of the world remembers him as Jack Sparrow, critics remember this performance as his very best. But that was just one chapter. Because after the gentle magic of Finding Neverland, Johnny's story would take some dark and difficult turns. Fame would explode. Controversy would follow. And the man who once showed us so much, heart, would soon become the center of Hollywood's biggest storm after Finding Neverland. Johnny Depp's life and career took a different turn. That gentle, heartfelt role had shown the world a side of Johnny we rarely got to see. Soft, emotional, and honest. But it didn't last. Just 1 year later, he jumped back into the spotlight, bigger than ever, as Jack Sparrow once again. The eccentric pirate would become his most famous role. Funny, bold, unforgettable, and it worked. Fans loved him. Studios poured millions into his movies. He was everywhere, but behind all the success, something was changing. His roles became louder, stranger, more over the top. He was no longer playing soft-spoken men like J.M. Barrie. Instead, he became a vampire, a Mad Hatter, and a dark wizard. It felt like the real Johnny Depp, the one we saw in Finding Neverland, had gone quiet again, hidden under makeup and performances. Off-screen life wasn't much better. His marriage fell apart, and soon he was caught in lawsuits and scandals. The headlines were no longer about his movies. They were about drama, courtrooms, and painful accusations. The world watched his private life unfold like a reality show. Some believed him, others turned against him. For the first time in his career, people weren't sure what to think of Johnny Depp anymore. What made it even sadder was that his talent never went away. But the spotlight had shifted from his art to his mistakes, real or rumored. Studios pulled back. His roles slowed down. People forgot the quiet artist he once was. But there was one thing critics and fans couldn't forget: Finding Neverland. Even through all the chaos, the film remained untouched, pure, respected, and deeply moving. People still went back to watch it, and every time they did, they remembered. The actor underneath the image is a man who played a gentle writer who believed in magic, who helped children smile through sadness, who reminded the world that growing up doesn't mean letting go of wonder. That movie became something more than just an award-nominated drama. It became a quiet mirror of the Johnny Depp we lost, and maybe the one even he missed, through all the wild characters and public battles. Finding Neverland shows us who he really was when all the noise was stripped away. He wasn't trying to impress anyone in that film. He wasn't being silly or shocking. He was just playing. A man who loved imagination, who escaped pain through creativity, and who gave his heart to others even when it was breaking. Maybe that's why Finding Neverland remains his highest-rated film ever. Not because it was the biggest, but because it was the truest. Now, years later, it feels like Finding Neverland is more important than ever. It reminds us that Johnny Depp isn't just Jack Sparrow, or a headline, or a scandal. He's a storyteller, a dreamer, and deep down still that boy who never fully grew up, because sometimes the best parts of us are the softest ones, the parts we hide in a world that always wants more. And maybe, in Finding Neverland, Johnny didn't just play a man who believed in Peter Pan, .. Maybe, for a moment, he became him.